Hi everyone, this is Startup Bright, and we talk here all things startups related. This is the time and place where startup founders talk about their ideas, their teams, their products, problems, and goals. We have today with us Julian.
Yes.
And he's gonna present us his app called QUADLETS.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So tell us, before you pitch your company, tell us a little bit about yourself, what your expertise is, and why did you decide to go with this development, with this application?
Hi you all, my name is Julian Keyz Thomas and I'm the CEO and founder of QUADLETS. QUADLETS is an online auction marketplace for services that allows freelancers to bid on consumers' work requests within a 24-hour period or less. The idea for this concept basically came about primarily focused on the gig economy in the US. Within the last 10 years, the gig economy has increasingly become a freelancer, contractor economy. Currently right now it's somewhere between 34 to 43% of freelancers who occupy the workspace, and within the next 10 years it'll be roughly over 50%, half of the US workforce. So this is actually evident, this upward trend from all of the freelance platforms that you see popping up. I can name so many of them, or the on-demand platforms that's actually popping up for freelance services. We saw a niche that we can actually target that was more so geared towards consumers rather than freelancers. And we say this because it's similar to the real estate market, where you have an abundance of homes, so it creates more opportunities for buyers, as opposed to a seller's market. So similar to the freelance market, if you have so many people who are able to do services for you, if you have so many auto mechanics who can do the same job, or web designers, or technicians, or dog walkers. We have about 29 categories. If you have all of these options, you should be able to get the very best deal possible, and that's where the concept of an auction, where we actually reverse the concept of auction, where traditionally you're bid up on a price. For this service platform, you're actually bidding, freelancers are bidding down to give you the best deal possible. So that's where the idea came from, and we see that this is a great platform for freelance millennials, where you don't necessarily have to market your services. The jobs instantly come to you once a consumer actually posts the work request. And it's also extremely beneficial for the modern day millennium consumer as well, because you don't have the biggest budget to, you know, buy things or actually hire people sometimes. You need the best deal possible. And even if you have money, people like good deals. Currently, we see a trend right now that if people are actually looking for service consumption, they'll either do one of two things. If you're not familiar with a person, you would like to have an easy referral. You'll ask someone that you know and say, hey, do you know someone who can do X, Y, and Z? And that person will either refer you, or they'll say, no, I don't know anyone. The second step is actually going to Google or a search engine saying who's near me, what's in my local proximity, and then you can actually do your due diligence to say, okay, what's the reviews on it, or et cetera, this and that. But once you actually choose that, and especially from my background coming in digital marketing, most people only go to the top 3 to 5 results on the Google search engine. You really don't go to the page, the second page, the third page, and that's why SEO, search engine optimization for websites, is so important. You want to rank high because people usually go directly to those top 3 or 5 websites. So if you're looking for someone, you'll probably Google them, and then you'll have to call them, and then you'll have to tell them exactly what you need and this and that. They'll have to give you a price quote, or you'll do price matching. And by the time you're done with 3 or 5 calls, you've probably spent a lot of time trying to figure out who's the best option, and then you still have to go. And so it's a long process of actually finding someone if you don't know anyone directly. So what we're trying to do is bridge that gap where you only have to submit one post. It's immediately all of the service providers who are actually in that particular category that you're searching for are immediately notified, and then upon that, the post that you post is only public or displayed for 24 hours, which means that there's an urgency for people to get their bids in. And once again, the whole system is people can either say, you have a $200 budget for a car job you need, okay? They can either just bid $200 flat, which attracts your site to their page on the platform, or they can say, hey, I'm not doing anything tomorrow, I can do it for $150. And in that case, you have the best deal possible. So essentially, that's what this is. And going back to like not even going back to, but to mention our mission statement, our main objective with this app is to continue building the most convenient work app for the next generation of workers and consumers who value flexibility and freedom. So that's QUADLETS for you.
Okay. Okay. This is. I think now I have better understanding because I heard this before your pitch on Pitch Globally Media, but I wasn't necessarily clear exactly how you differ than Guru.com or Fiverr or all this other places where I can go and hire freelancers.
Right.
What you describe kind of sounds to me like I use a Uber application, right? So I put my request for a taxi, and then the nearby drivers are notified, and whoever picks first, gets to drive me to the location I asked for. So is this kind of similar like that? So I have a job and I use your application and I post it and it's active for 24 hours
or less, yeah.
Or less, and then freelancers are going to bid to take upon the job, and whoever I like, for whatever reason, gets to work on the contract on the task.
Bingo.
Okay. All right. So Fiverr is very similar, I guess, in that terms. In the difference is I use Fiverr a lot, but the difference is there is no necessarily bidding. The bidding is kind of offline, meaning if you're a service provider and I am service provider, we don't see each other's bids.
Right, exactly.
But whoever requested the job can see both bids and eventually decide based on multiple rules.
Right. I mean, most platforms online are bidding systems, even when you're looking for a job. Employer says, oh, we're looking for this, and everyone submits their resumes, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and essentially you're bidding for that position in that company. So everything is a bid. The difference is with Fiverr, they categorize themselves as a catalog more so than a marketplace, right? And then when you refer to Uber, that's more an on-demand service. This is in hybrid, I guess you could say, a hybrid between saying, look, there is a time frame where this person is looking for this. That's where we put the urgency to say 24 hours or less, but it's not necessarily at that particular moment. And the biggest difference between Fiverr is Fiverr, along with a lot of these freelance platforms, traditionally, if you think about freelancing, at least in the modern form of all of these platforms out there, freelance or Upwork, a lot of it's dealing with like white collar jobs, things that you can do on the computer, arts, and not too many things are local where you have, you have certain marketplaces where you have a home services on demand. People always ask us about TaskRabbit, and TaskRabbit found a nice niche for themselves to actually be the platform for home services. And you have other places where it's photography on demand and this and that too. Our biggest thing when we were creating this was not to limit it towards, and I guess in the industry they call it the vertical, where it's not to limit it towards one thing. The one thing that I did like what Fiverr did was they created a concept for people, right? And it said that, look, doesn't matter if you want a website, if you want art design, if you want logo design, everything is $5. And traditionally this stuff is, now it's different because you can charge however much, because they've scaled the business and it's known now. So people charge, they put their own prices up there, but originally coming out, everything had to be $5, right? It was a $5 price point. So the ideology behind it was Fiverr. It's $5 for anything you want as long as it's through the computer and this and that too. And it's not really local. The only service that's really local are either these on-demand vertical companies or Craigslist traditionally. A lot of modern day freelance platforms are just, they utilize globalization. And I think that's where we leverage ourselves too. I think the biggest thing is it's not really about it's about introducing something sometimes to the next generation. Everything that everyone's doing has been done before. It's all regurgitated, right? Sometimes it's just how do you differentiate in the slightest, you know, in the slightest fashion. Who do you introduce this to? Our biggest thing is we want to make this as easy as possible for millennium workers, for millennium consumers, and then the following generation, right? Because even people think about millennials as being young. It's not really relatively young. I'm on the back end of being a millennium. I'm 24, but millennials go up to 39, I believe, you know? But that next generation, how are the next generation working? How is it more convenient to for a person to say, I have the skill and I want to work? How is it easy? And that's why we create it as convenient as possible. Our platform isn't on a desktop. It's a mobile app. You know, it's as simple as possible. We allow ourselves to, because even if you're a freelancer in this regard, you'll always be notified of the services within your particular industry. But it's also easy to be a consumer because, you know, a person is an auto mechanic, but you probably need a nanny for your kids, you know? And then it's like, so we all offer something and we all need things. So we allow that to happen in the easiest way possible with just an app. You don't have to really go on and do too many things. You know, we just consolidate all of your information. And once again, we're doing the marketing for the freelancers and for the consumers. We're finding the best deals for you possible in the real time.
Okay. So let me ask you this: do you have a team working with you?
Yes, we have a team of 6 in-house, and then we do some outsourcing for some other intricate parts of the company.
So you have some stuff developed here, and also you have a team in.
Yeah, we have a development team that assists us with primarily, like most of our development in India.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we've been working with them for a while. We also have some developers in Russia. When we were doing the native versions of the prototype for iOS and Android, and then we essentially end up going with our Indian team to just do the full layout for the React Native build for both codes. But yeah, internally we have a senior management team, and we do all of our designs in-house. And yeah, and our team consists of myself, obviously, as a CEO. Our COO, Dana Brown, is an attorney of 20 plus years, professional entrepreneur and business lady. Our CMO is Constant Knight. She currently works for Google, and she has an extensive background dealing with strategic partnerships and management. And then obviously my co-founder, David, has an extensive background with tech, dealing with Disney and Yahoo, and currently right now he manages a team in the testing. I forgot exactly what it was, but basically testing all of the mobile, not the mobile app, just all the applications for LAUSD in Los Angeles. So yeah, and then we have other marketers, and then our main UI UX developer who are, we all went to the same college. So
okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So I heard you have technical people, you have attorney, which is good.
Yeah,
you got,
really good.
you got marketing person as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anybody to help you on the business side of things?
Yeah, well, that's our attorney, the COO.
She's taking care of.
Yeah, she's crossing between both of those. She's our general counsel and our COO, which is like extremely good for us because all operations encompass some type of legalities. Mm-hmm. So whenever we're doing anything in-house, we have someone to like remind us of the legal ramifications of everything we're doing. So yeah, she crosses between both of those, and yeah.
How do you market your application? You said you were doing SEO and some social media marketing.
Right.
So how are you going to be marketing this application to millennials or other people that are looking for services?
Right. Well, fortunately for us, we've been developing this for 13 months. We've done some pitch competitions. Probably to date, our biggest accomplishment came this past spring when we did the Cal State Northridge pitch competition called the Bull Ring. It was 50 teams, and we only had an idea at that point. We were developing the prototype. We didn't even have the prototype, but out of 50 teams, we made it to top 5. Yeah, so thank you, I appreciate that. And that was our first pitch competition. After that, we kind of really got focused. Prior to that, we actually did a product market fit survey with about 200 200 respondents.
What did you use to do the survey?
We did an online survey. So we personally reached out to people we knew. We reached out to some people that we didn't know. They had to fit within the target market of that. I mean, in general, it was millennials, but we did a survey on behalf of consumption, how people consume products, young people consume products, budget requirements, radius requirements, distance. And then we also did it for potential freelancers, of people who knew that they had skills. They didn't want to work a regular job, and they just didn't know how to leverage their skills in the marketplace because they didn't have marketing background or this, and so they were discouraged from actually entering the gig economy. So, and then ultimately we had great responses, and that contributed towards our prototyping. Now, coming up currently, we're actually launching the product this Thursday, September 27th, at Tech Day LA. We got invited.
Are you going to be at Tech Day?
We got invited to do Tech Day.
Michael and I are going to be there. So.
There you go. See you there. Congratulations. It's really exciting. So we're going to launch that day, and then starting October 1st, we have about 3 or 4 marketing strategies that we're actually going to execute for the remainder of this year. And our primary objective is to see what works best. Because once you can find out what works best, which has the best cost per acquisition metrics, all of these things, we can kind of see what to hone in on and say this is our primary focus for the following 6 months to really get to those metrics that we want. So like I said, between the strategies, we have some email campaigns, we have some digital marketing campaigns, we have some personal outreach, we have campus outreach, and then yeah, and that's basically it.
Okay, I have an idea how you probably make money with your application, but I want to hear it from you. So what is your business model? How do you expect to make money?
Transactional. Right now, the app is completely free. We're covering all the burn cash costs right now because it's manageable. We want to make it to the point that people just really enjoy the app and they see the value in it. But essentially, once we actually roll out the transactional, it's really beneficial for the users as well to just, I would say literally, allow us to take the transactional fees, because first and foremost, we're providing a safe haven. Similar to a lot of platforms online where it's easier to transfer money through the platform because you can hold people accountable. You can hold the funds in the escrow account where, until the job is done or both parties are satisfied, those funds are distributed, or, you can, if a person, it's just accountability essentially.
So it's a sort of escrow system that they have.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the I think it's called freelancer.com.
Yeah, freelancer.
They have the bidding system, and they also have the escrow services, and they actually call it escrow.
Right, exactly.
So that's why I'm telling you about this. So. Yeah,
Fiverr does too. I mean, most platforms that's like a standard now.
Yeah.
I mean, Lyft even uses, it's all escrow. Basically you front the cost, and then once the job is done, and both parties are satisfied, the funds are distributed. One of our biggest differences too, and I don't like to talk too much about it because it's not rolled out yet, but we do plan on rolling out the transactional at the end of the year. One of the biggest differences with ours is we don't require individuals, because since ours is a hybrid between global services such as computer services and also local services. If you need a plumber, we give the option to either front the entire cost to the escrow, or just deposits. Because some people may say, I have cash, or I want to make my own payment plans with this person, or I owe you this, I owe you that. Freelancers can say, well, okay, just pay me a deposit. Because if I'm a hairdresser and you say you're going to come in and then you end up not coming in, I lost money because I could have had someone else in my chair, right? So to have some type of faith on behalf of the person buying the services, as a freelancer, I can say just put the deposit down or put the entire thing down. That's upon the two parties to negotiate. So we have that option. And for us, like I said, we just want to make sure that there's accountability, and for us actually making sure that there's accountability, and for us processing things, we take a processing fee from the buyer, and then we take a fee from the seller. And in comparison,
so you have transaction fee on both sides.
We have transaction fee. For the processing fee is lower, it's about 4%. So if you want to put that into
all
comparison,
together or each?
For the seller, they pay 4%. For currently right now, our pricing point for the buyer, they pay 4%. So when you actually hire someone, you pay a 4% fee on top of what you're currently buying. So if it's for something for $25, it's $1, right? Okay. Or yes, I believe it's like $1. For the sellers, when they actually do the job, we have currently a pricing point right now of 16%, which is lower than Fiverr, which is 20%. Okay. Yeah. So those numbers are bound to change, but that's what we're actually, they're not bound to change, but you know, it's nothing set in stone. Once again, this is all beta testing. So people like it, cool, we keep it. Yeah, if not, we change it up.
You gotta change it. Mm-hmm. I see maybe not a problem, but it's a huge task to bring up a two-sided market.
Yeah,
because
it really is.
This is a marketplace, and you need suppliers, you need customers. I hope your marketing strategy works out well, because for me, like, this is probably one of the most difficult type of startups to bring to life, right?
I feel like we have a better opportunity than a lot of vertical companies, and I say that because once again, it's not vertical really. There's various things, so you can have someone on there who's a freelancer. Our biggest thing is like with two-sided economy companies, right? You have to get the sellers first, and then you market to the buyers, which is general population. But for us, if you can get the sellers first, they also need services as well, you know, because it's not just a photography app. If I'm a photographer and I go on a photography app, I'm just going to get on there to see if work comes in, and then I'm not going to use it myself because I'm a photographer. So why would I need to use it, right? If I'm, on Fiverr, that's why Fiverr is actually good too, because it's an abundance of things. And when they came out, it wasn't as much as it is now. But, if you are on there selling your services, you're probably also buying things too. So when you have systems like that, that's why I think we went in the direction of we're selling the ideology. We're not selling services. We're selling the concept that you can get anything. You get instantaneous price matching services. You can see the cheapest price for it. So it's almost like a Groupon for services, although Groupon does do services. Yeah.
So all this is really interesting. I kind of like the idea that you also gonna use your suppliers as buyers, and you're gonna market your application to very much everybody, and of course your buyers are gonna be suppliers at some point. So when I open an account, I suppose there is no real differentiation between me being a freelancer or being a consumer of somebody else's. So I happened to listen in my car on the way to here a podcast, and they were talking about Ninja and Ninja Token. Okay. Have you heard of them?
Ninja is the guy from Twitch, right? He does like live gaming.
No,
I'm like, I think it's another guy I'm talking about. Right. Okay.
So there are too many ninjas.
Right. There's a lot of ninjas. Okay. Right.
Okay. So this company they're building is very close to what you say. They are building a marketplace for freelancers. I didn't hear details. What they said, they raised money already, and they are very close to release their product. But on top of that, they have this Ninja coin that is going to be used to pay in their ecosystem. Right. So do you see any?
It's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, I've been talking about that since the inception of it, the utilization of like a blockchain. The only thing is a lot of traditional, I feel like, investors are skeptical of that, because a lot of people, I invest in crypto. I used to invest in it hefty before it became like a thing, and I made nice money off of it. But a lot of times when people don't really know, know the difference between crypto and blockchains a lot of times too. So I'm guessing what they're speaking about is like a blockchain. They're having a coin, But in order to actually do that, you would have to most likely have a blockchain on the back end, which raises some type of questions with transactions and funds, right? Because blockchains aren't centralized like a traditional bank or like, you know. So it's interesting that you mentioned that because we want to do that. But there are a lot of questions going into that of how you would do that. And two, if you primarily make your system based off of that, there's a large market because there's a lot of crypto users, right? But you would have to insinuate that crypto users would only be using your platform because the average person probably isn't comfortable enough, especially with the big dip of cryptocurrencies within like the last year, right?
Yeah.
So in order to answer your question, yes, that's something that we looked into, but it's a lot of questions concerning it, especially of who you're trying to target. I feel like you limit yourself sometimes with that. But once again, there's opportunity for everything. So if they feel like doing that, that's great. We actually have a different route that we're going to take once we actually make market fit with this, which is in the finance tech. Mm-hmm. So we have some exciting things like within the next 6 months that we're going to develop. And we actually are going to start developing this new tech that complements this marketplace by the end of the year.
Nice.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you looking for in terms of funding? Are you looking for funding or are you looking for more for, I don't know, strategic partners or?
So currently we are looking for advisors, board members that fit obviously the direction we're trying to go in, just like the perfect fits. It fits. It's not an urgency right now. It's a gradual build up. Same thing with like a CFO. Once we actually eventually raise some more funding. To this point, we've bootstrapped everything, and we did a family funding round. We bootstrapped it. As, I originally invested like $10,000 into it, and then we raised about $35,000 from a family funding round. So yeah, and as far as funding, we are looking for funding right now. Our seed funding that we're trying to raise is about 1.25 million. But we're looking at that more so around the first quarter of next year. What we do want to do is build up the traction within these next few months. We have a strategic marketing plan that we're gonna, I gave you like basics of it, but we have a real in-depth strategic marketing plan that we want to develop with for like about the fourth quarter for 3 months. And once we have that feedback, we also kind of know what works, what doesn't work, how to continue building. And once again, you know, just at that point, just building the company out. There's no real rush. I mean, even right now too, we're willing to burn some cash personally to get it to the point where it's presentable. But I think it's impressive enough what we've built, and even if we build up the user base at 10,000 at this point, it's pretty
So you're
impressive.
focusing mainly on building the
Absolutely.
user base, and what are you going to be using the funding for?
The funding?
Yeah.
Oh, for further expansion. That's why we want to make sure that we know what works as far as for our development. We have more things we want to roll out, more features we want to roll out. Our business model we want to roll out, make sure that that's tight. We want to make sure we have enough funds to maintain the user base, because for this particular app right here, you most likely will have freelancers on the platform, but we always have to make sure that we have more market development, because once again with services, people aren't using services every day like a Uber. You know, it's not part of the lifestyle for consumption a lot of times. So you always have to find new consumers essentially, which is more market development. So a lot of it's going towards marketing. Our marketing strategies will help as far as with the grassroots campaign that we're trying to do to build up the base. But once you get to a certain level, we would love to experiment with some influencer marketing and make that our primary marketing strategy going forward. So it's a lot of things like that. And then also too, like with the development of it, we want to bring in algorithmic developers to make it easier for people to connect, and all of these systems that essentially work, and you know that takes money.
Yeah. So it's a huge opportunity, opportunity, and you can even think about implementing, you know, machine learning.
Everything.
Everything is going to go, because you're going to be able to match people easily,
right,
quicker,
exactly,
and all that stuff.
And I think before you start I think the biggest thing is like you mentioned earlier with Ninja, that price point that we're seeking is kind of heavy for a lot of stuff that we want to do. However, you're still competing with a lot of people who are raising a lot of funds. So the last thing we want to do is put ourselves in a predicament where we're asking for less than we actually think we need. You know, so if we want to maintain this for a year and give it to a Series A fund, we need some funds to make sure that at least until it's making some type of revenue, and most likely wouldn't need to be profitable until 2 years. I'm projecting at a certain, you know, revenue. I mean, certain investment that we're asking for. Really, realistically, it's going to take time to build up. You know, we want to make sure that we're in the position that we can consistently build and be in competition, at least during the earliest stages, and we're not being left behind, and then we have to worry about going to raise more funds. You know, so that's why that price point is also like that too.
For that funding, what kind of deal do you offer to investors?
Right now, we're looking at 15% equity, which is also negotiable too, because we
well, if it's pre-revenue, everything is up in the air,
everything is up in the air.
But
and we're asking for standard convertible note, because we don't have too much to go off of. By the time we actually start speaking about convertible note and having meetings, we'll probably have only 3 months, but we can have some type of form of a small growth rate. And even if we're working with a smaller budget right now, and our cost per acquisition is 40 to 50 cents per user, and you know, and then out of all of those users, 5 to 10% are actually buying into it. Those numbers start to add up, and it starts to make sense. But yeah, right now it's negotiable, but it's about 15% convertible note, and it's for 12 months, because we would like to have a Series A fund in 12 months or less, build it up within the market. And yeah, and then obviously too, a lot of things are negotiable as far as for board seats and you know, certain members coming on board, because we do need more members, such as a CFO when you're handling all of that money. We've been able to, you know, finance
that money.
Right.
Yeah, somebody to handle the.
Oh, right, exactly. So things like that, that's fine. But for me, the main objective is just like there's a lot of startups out there. There's a lot of investors who have different interests, and it's about making the right match, you know, with the company, and having the right direction and the right. I would say, intention.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's not just the money. You have to have somebody that is actually interested in what you're doing.
They can contribute in other ways besides the money, like the direction.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of investors who have had exits with marketplaces. They know, you know, they know the market better than us. You know, so. All of those would contribute towards it, but it's just the right market fit, and we're not rushing it. Like I said, as long as it's in a pretty stable position, I don't mind burning the cash, especially until we roll out our business model. Yeah.
Okay. Julian, here at Startup Bright, I always ask founders for something funny or even humiliating that happened during, you know, this process of building your startup.
Right.
Do you have anything funny to share with us?
It's not really funny. I just want to show people how the system actually worked, right, and how it came about. Like my CMO and my CTO, David and Connie, we actually met because, like I spoke earlier too, I have a music company, and I teach kids between the ages of 4 to 18. I personally teach. I personally teach piano, voice, and music production, and I have 5 other teachers who teach other various instruments. But I met those 2 because Dave and I met on Craigslist. Yeah, we met on Craigslist because he was looking for a piano instructor for his daughters, and that's how we actually met. I started teaching his daughters for like a year, and then we randomly started talking. And I was like, "So what do you do?" He's like, "I build tech." I'm like, "Oh, me too." And then I ran the idea by him. He was like, "I think it's a great idea," and it evolved over time. Same thing with Connie. Connie found me on Yelp and went to my website, and I teach her 2 younger. Well, our company, I teach her 1 son on piano, and another instructor teaches her other son guitar. And after a while, you start talking, and it's so our team really formed just off of natural thing, and we start discussing how it would have been easier to link up, if we had this idea where it's like, oh, okay, well, it'd probably be easier and more convenient if we didn't have to go through this and these channels. And that's how the app actually performed. It was like by personal experience, and that's how the team built up. So yeah.
Okay.
Not too funny, but it's kind of interesting.
Well, it's kind of interesting, definitely.
Right. So.
Well, Julian, thank you very much. It's been really interesting and pleasure to talk to you. What we prefer to do is meet with you again in 3 or 6 months and see how you have developed.
Definitely.
And if you manage to accomplish what you said here. Right?
We will.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.